You should get a couch.
I should get a couch. I agree. Hospitality is a huge. Oh,
You told me you were going to get a couch.
Okay, so we did the gifts assessment, right?
Okay. And your gift
This
is getting
week.
a couch? What's
My
happening?
number one gift.
No, he didn't get a couch.
My
It's not his
number
gift.
one gift was hospitality.
Oh, nice. I love that.
But
I love that.
I'm not. I'm serious.
Wow.
Like,
So did you
that
do
was
it like with your life group?
Hospitality is we.
Okay.
And by did it with my life group, I mean we told everybody to do it,
Yeah, right.
and then
So you
we
didn't
all
do it
did
with your
it
life
on
group.
the way and there,
Okay.
including me.
Yeah. Thankfully,
So-
it doesn't take that long to do.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of questions,
Dude, but some of them
Yeah.
are so
But-
weird.
Yeah.
yeah.
They're
They're
trying
like-
to trick you into revealing who you really are.
Yeah. Yeah. There's one that's
How
like
dare they.
you imagine yourself, maybe it's the disc profile. You imagine yourself as like
Yeah.
a toddler or something, or like a little
I've not
kid.
done the
Uh,
disc.
I've done the disc, but I don't remember that aspect of it.
It might have been a
while.
different one. It might
Yeah.
not be the disc. So
Yeah.
I've taken a
Imagine
few.
myself as a toddler.
you like imagine yourself as like how you acted as a kid, I think is more accurate.
Okay.
And so then it's called Motive Matters. That's what it's called.
Matters.
Motive Matters, and it's
Okay.
it's like you imagine yourself as a kid.
So what's the end result of Motive Matters? Is it like
it's still like you get a profile like other things, and then you can draw conclusions about like how you interact with other people. I think it's just a similar motive to the other ones.
It's interesting. So I'd be
But-
interested to know, like someone like me who has a very different adult life versus child life. I'd be interested. You know what I mean?
It's
And-
based
and
on the
you're there,
psychology
too.
that
My
that
adult
you are
life
the
is
same,
almost the exact same as
Yeah.
my child.
that your
Yeah.
personality hasn't. I mean, your personality might change, I guess, but like your
Yeah.
core of who you are is the same as a kid and an adult,
Uh-huh.
but you just have experiences and events that lead
Yeah.
you to now. So,
Interesting.
Yeah.
so I don't know like how much. I think you could have a catastrophic event that changes how you do everything,
Huh.
and that may change like how you view stuff.
Yeah. Well,
so like your lens
trauma,
can change that.
Yeah.
Trauma.
Yeah.
So I don't know how
catastrophic shift in, perspective, like,
Yeah.
building a relationship with a God who's real.
Or that, yeah, yeah, and then like nature versus nurture comes into there. It's all
Yeah.
So, anyways,
Anyways,
enough
back to
about
what
that.
I was saying.
Yeah, let's
my
go, Joey.
hospitality gift
Yeah.
is my highest gift, but I don't have any I don't have a couch to
Yeah.
sit people.
Yeah.
I don't have chairs.
Yeah.
I also live in an apartment.
Hospitality's
so
your
getting
highest gift, but you've created a house that you're like,
is
please
not
don't come over.
hospitable. Literally,
come over.
that is literally my house. Please don't come over.
How do you be hospitable elsewhere? Like if you're out and about, or
Well,
do you like? Can you
it's
just?
almost
I don't
like
know.
part of my job is to
Yeah.
create a hospitable environment
I think,
for
Joey,
other people to worship Jesus.
I think you have a very hospitable personality.
Thank you.
I think you just live in a dynamic of your life that it's hard to be super hospitable.
in that standard
And-
traditional way.
Right. Yeah.
And
in
we're-
your
we're-
house.
We're gonna psychoanalyze me right now because
Oh, yeah.
I like it. Let's
That-
do that.
I'm almost certain that is self-created.
Huh.
That it is my fault that my own life is not inviting towards
Okay.
other people.
Okay.
Are you saying that
it's
like on
hard.
purpose?
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
no. It's a
He-
bad thing about me.
He
Like,
subconsciously
I'm in a-
built an intentional home
Oh.
that is not very inviting, is what he's saying, I think.
because
Wow, that's big.
That's deep.
All right, so
Whoa.
we're talking about making hearts.
Oh man,
Uh,
yeah, we need to hit this before it gets too
Yeah,
far away
yeah,
from
yeah.
us.
Oh,
We're
man.
so glad you're here.
We can
Welcome,
talk about that.
welcome to the
Let's talk
Monday
about
morning
that.
worship hangover.
I'm
I'm-
Dallas.
I'm Joey.
I'm Zach. Damn, we
Sorry,
messed
I'm
that
a
up.
little
That's all
nervous.
right.
I got a little vulnerable there.
You did, man. That was nice.
Thank
That's
you.
good. Way to get vulnerable.
We had
on
the
this camera.
scapegoat. We had the scapegoat heart thing. So
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So if you don't know what the heart thing is about, so our social media team released a video. Like yesterday, they walked around and just asked people to make like a heart. And I pointed out that Zach made the I associate the heart you made with Taylor Swift, like the wonky
really?
Taylor Swift heart.
Oh,
I don't
man.
know why I associate.
I think I was
it with
doing that before.
I don't think
I
that's
knew.
real because I also saw other like people in the video who are like major
Yeah.
Swifties and they didn't do it. So
I just saw someone do it, and I was unhappy with
so
my other heart.
show the people, how do you make a heart, Zach?
Do this.
So-
Can you see it? Yeah.
I don't.
It's very like
I don't even
that looks well crafted though. Like that is a nice.
I don't
shape.
even
Well
understand
crafted
the
heart.
ergonomics at play.
you have to make your
Yeah.
middle fingers as
Oh,
straight as
I
possible.
I think I kind of did it.
You gotta
Yeah.
come. Yeah, make your middle fingers almost like curve out.
I mean, so the other thing.
How is
Yeah, you got it.
Look at it. It's not bad.
Okay,
So Thomas
I'm never
Kennedy
gonna do
is
that again.
which is like,
Dallas, how do
BTS
you
or
make
whatever?
a heart?
huh?
can you see the heart? It's like, I think that's what it is, right?
Oh,
BTS, they do this, and it's a little heart.
That's cute. I
It's a
like that.
miniature heart.
I like
So-
that.
So it's easier because you only have one hand.
Yeah,
you
that's
just
nice.
try to make your thumb and your.
Yeah. I mean, it's
This
an
is us.
easy.
Oh man, we look like nerds right now.
It's easy. So
Tell us how you make a heart.
I make the millennial heart.
That's so chunky.
No, but
I think
it's the millennial heart.
I think
why is
females'
your
hands-
heart is weirder than
females'
Zach's.
hands work for that. I've
Sure.
seen somebody make a heart, and I'm like, wow, what a good heart. And then I look at mine, and I'm like, look at these. Like my heart has like love handles or something, or like I don't know.
Wow, that was
That is-
almost
that
like
is-
Worship Hangover
that is
noir.
Noir.
not,
After
not,
dark.
not the word I would have thought.
No.
I don't
you
know,
were
man.
gonna
Look at that thing. It's
say
just
for that.
Never
freaky.
once
No,
did I
yeah.
look
I'm
at
just-
anybody's heart and be like, wow, that heart has love
I'm just
handles.
self-conscious about my
That
heart.
ki-
How do you make your heart? Oh man, we're
that
clipping.
kind of we're clipping.
Uh-huh.
That kind of makes sense though.
So post
heart
a
attack.
picture of yourself making your heart in the comments. That'd be
Yeah.
great.
Can I
Hope
show
you
my
are.
heart?
Yeah, Joey,
Is that
please show
okay?
your heart because
So
Joey.
I'm a little bit of a hybrid.
Yeah, because Joey's got a
No
disadvantage for the
Okay.
heart making.
Disadvantage. I think my heart is beautiful.
in its own way.
It is,
because
yeah.
It is a
Yes,
combination.
it is
of
as gorgeous
other
as
type-
Shrek's heart.
Oh man. Oh man.
I don't even know what to say to that. Anyways, this is my heart. I've
It's
worked
nice.
really hard.
I'm
on
actually
it.
really impressed by it.
Thank you.
I really.
In
You're
case you don't know, I'm missing a thumb.
I would never know that. I would never know that this was not a thumb in that heart.
That this was not a thumb. Yeah.
I would
So
never
I was
know.
in the video. I was in
Wow.
the video.
Yeah.
And you don't see anything.
No one's gonna know.
How's that? Oh yeah, that's a beautiful looking heart.
It is, yeah. So
Yeah.
That does
there
look
you
good. Man, mine is terrible though.
yeah.
Anyways.
Oh man, Chris Cox, greetings from Colorado Springs. Man,
Wow.
jealous of that.
Yeah, I know, right?
Love that
This
place.
season
Awesome.
too, right?
Oh yeah,
Really
perfect timing. Perfect timing. So for sure. But yeah, so that was posted on our social media today. So if you were one of the people that you were asked to have your picture taken, you may be in that video or in that reel or whatever.
Yeah.
So go check it out. It's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, at first I didn't know what I was being asked to do.
Yeah.
Like, what is this for? And
Uh-huh.
and then I was like, whatever. And so
Uh-huh.
then I made my weirdo heart and then
Uh-huh. It's
So-
pretty cool.
but I actually haven't gone back and watched it, so I'm gonna go watch it later.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's essentially what our hook was for today.
That
Uh-huh.
was it.
How do you
heart.
make a heart?
How do you make
But everybody does it different, and I'm sure there's another way that we have yet to figure out that people
everybody's
can make.
heart is
Uh-huh.
like a snowflake. Everybody does it differently. There's no two hearts are the same.
So let's talk about yesterday's sermon.
Oh man.
Let's talk about yesterday's sermon. So we kicked off Esther yesterday. 3 services. First of all, let's just
Yes.
address
Oh my
that.
goodness.
Let's what,
How
let's
you-
not talk about the sermon. 3 services.
How y'all feeling about 3 services? That was wild and great.
That
and,
was
and I loved it. Like
I was kind of riding a wave the whole time, like
Yeah.
in a good way.
Yeah.
Like it was really fun, and I was excited to see like who was coming to what service and and looking
Yeah.
around the room and being like, oh man, like it was scary. It's
Uh-huh.
always scary because you're like, is the room gonna just be empty? Because that's
Yeah.
always hard to
yeah.
like lead worship or preach for.
Uh-huh.
It's like preaching for one human. You know, obviously we're preaching for
Yeah.
God and worshiping God, but
It's
it
easier
harder.
to communicate to a full room than to an empty room. That's an easier thing to do.
yes, that's a
Yeah.
good way to say it.
And so, so it doesn't really matter. It's not necessarily about number of people. Like if the room caps out at 25, it's easier to speak to 25 than it is to 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if the room caps out at 360, you know what I mean? And there's 30 people there. That's really hard.
That's really a view behind the curtain because
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people, if they haven't done public
Yeah.
speaking or something
Mhm.
to a small
Uh-huh.
room, or something,
Yeah.
then they don't know that. But man, it gets hard. And sometimes I feel like we're just trying to put out our energy
Yeah.
in the like worship
Yeah.
music time,
Uh-huh.
and,
And in the
we're
preaching
just
time.
we're
I
just
mean,
like
honestly.
dumping water into an empty well. It
Yeah.
just disappears and you never see it again.
Yeah, because it's
So-
it's a very back and forth
It's a
kind of
feedback
thing.
loop,
Like
yeah.
the person on stage gives energy out, and we on stage receive energy from those in the audience, and so there's less people to
Yeah.
bounce that energy.
But
back.
I feel like just proof that this was the right move. Like this was us following God's lead,
Yeah.
because every service felt like it had a good amount of people, and it felt like there's room to grow.
yeah,
I
I loved what you said at the beginning
Yeah.
of the sermon.
Yeah, I only did that
Guys.
in third service.
Okay. that
yeah,
was
yeah,
the
yeah.
one.
No, you're
Yeah.
good.
Guys, look at somebody. Look next to you is something you haven't seen recently in the past few Sundays. room to invite more people.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. But really, I mean,
Yeah, it's true.
that's the thing. Like the goal of doing 3 services is like, yes, we want people to find us through like just random showing up and advertising and all of the things that we do, but we really want people to find us because people invite them here.
That's absolutely, church's best experience, especially new church's best experience through your friends.
So we had an experience. Like I actually wanted to talk about this last week, but I just could, my time wise, I just couldn't be here.
Yeah.
So we had a friend come with us, or guest come with us a couple weeks ago, and I just was reminded at the power of sitting with, like, can I sit with you? In fact, after the service was over, this particular person like even asked Alpha, like, hey, can I sit with you next week? You know what I mean? Like, because in a room full of faces, this is the one face that you are like at least know who they are.
It's so powerful.
So on like a sort of side note, there's someone who comes to church and they were just going through a tough time.
Yeah.
And I knew a little bit about it, but I didn't know like every single detail, but I noticed that they were without their spouse for that day, and I just went over, and I was like, hey, can I sit with you? And he was like, yeah. And so it was a cool moment to get to be able to do that, because I think maybe Rachel was gone as well, or maybe she was in a different. And I was just like, man, I think that guy needs some care or needs some. Just some friendship. And so like it was fun to be able to sit next to him for me, not just for him, and hopefully it was good for him too, but it was cool just to be like, hey, we're experiencing the sermon together. And
there's worship in that, when there's community when you sing together and you listen to the sermon together. And I mean, if you sit next to me in church, those of you who sit next to me or around me,
hold on.
I'm known for talking and responding verbally to the sermon sometimes. So I feel like you learn a lot about a person when they sit in a room and hear a guy talk for 30 minutes.
But I think back to the hospitality thing that you brought up earlier, like that's a way to be hospitable, even if you can't always be hospitable in your house. Like we've all, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that I think is why we noticed in you early on, like, hey, this guy is really a hospitable personality and would be great to help take this ministry and run with it. Better than some of the others of us who are on staff, is because you do have that personality where you would be like, hey, I'll sit next to you, or you know what I mean? Or and so, but I wanted to make sure and mention that, like that, just sit next to somebody.
It's
hey,
so
come
important.
with me. I'll sit next to you. Come find me. Like we'll do this thing together. I'll help you take your kids and check them in. I'll walk you through the process.
Sometimes it feels weird to ask somebody if you can sit with them too, but when you do it and you're like, no, this is fine, then I think that's a really cool
and
moment.
you also may in the future, as we build up our hospitality teams, and being an usher is one of those teams that is being built up, you may have somebody come to you and say, hey, can I sit this person next to you?
Yeah.
And that is also a huge opportunity for a group of people who may not have the opportunity to have what your friends had,
right.
And so you can be that, not only just for the people but especially even more so for the people you don't, because that allows them to have that comfort. And I would encourage every person listening who goes to our church to seek out new people. And I think a value of our ministry is, one of our core values of the hospitality ministry is that we desire to just make friends. Right. Whether that's us making relationships with other people, or even more so connecting people that they can make friends. We seek to create those relationships. And so ultimately that relies on you. Hospitality is just a connection.
The beauty of connecting people and the power of connecting people is it's an amazing thing. I mean, that's what groups does too. That's what you know what I mean? Like we're trying to situate ourselves in this place of connecting people in an organization that is growing large enough to be easily disconnected from.
Yeah, for sure.
There's something that happens to us, especially becoming adults, because like that transition from being in college and there are people all around and you knew a lot of people, and then you go somewhere. It's different with ministry maybe, but you go to a new place and you don't know anybody,
right?
And you suddenly become like a loner, like
Yeah.
you're a lone wolf. And I think that we experience that a lot, and we don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
We don't know what to, like, how to break it, or especially in Jeff City, sometimes it's like, what do I go do to hang out with people?
Yeah.
So one time,
man, we tried to go to the mall on Saturday night at like 7:00. It was like 7:02. That place was locked up.
Oh wow.
What do you do?
Yeah.
There's an arcade in there. The only arcade in town is in the
there?
mall.
No, that's not true. Strikers.
Yeah, but that place is expensive.
So something happened to me when I was doing my residency at College Heights, and I wasn't really in leadership. I was more just like an intern, like support staff. And this guy came up to me one Sunday and we met each other, and then he just said, "Hey, like, when we see each other at church, when I see you, I'm just gonna wave at you and say hi.
Yeah.
And you do the same for me, and that's how we can take care of each other." And I was just like, dude, what a cool thing. He just created this intentional relationship that was really low commitment.
Yeah. Low bar.
It was so good. And so I don't remember how many times we actually did that. Like, I know I saw him and we said hi to each other, but if you just make an effort to
what an honest conversation.
To bring
that's
someone
such
out
an
of
honest thing to say. Just, man, this is what our relationship's going to be. I'm going to say hi to you, and you're going to say hi to me. And we're gonna support each other in that.
That's
great.
Self-awareness is off the chain.
So, but transition to 3. It was good.
Yeah. Tiring.
It was tiring.
We had some holes.
Unexpectedly.
Yeah. Had some holes. We knew that we'd have holes.
Yeah.
This whole thing's a learning experience for everybody involved, including the staff. But it was. I mean, overall, I think it was a really big win. And in seeing like the services panned out, we were surprised by which service was the largest.
Yeah.
And I was pleasantly surprised by how many people were still in first service. I was a little worried that service would dwindle down a lot. And so it was good. It was all a win. All things were good.
Yeah.
And so really, really enjoyed that. Ezra, it was funny. Ezra yesterday, he's like, because he went to children's ministry for both second and third service. And he's used to just having the one service of children's ministry. You know what I mean? Like Bible fellowship, at our earliest service, and then children's ministry. And so now we have like the 3 thing, and it's all the same thing. And so most families are electing to come to one service, in general, unless they're serving that Sunday, which I get, and everything. And so he was like, each service, like we only had X amount of kids in each one, or whatever. And we're like, but that's how many kids we had. It's just they're divided between it. And he's like, yeah, that makes sense. So it's funny watching him like track that out too. So it was really, really cool.
And one thing that was awesome is like Mark Landis was in first service.
Yeah.
Our children's minister.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that who that guest was on the left when I was preaching?
Mm-hmm.
I wondered.
Yeah, it was Mark Landis.
Gotcha. Yeah, and not to throw him under the bus at all. I don't think he watches the Worship Hangover.
No,
but
probably not.
But just
so we can talk about him all we want.
Yeah. Well, hey, why haven't we been doing that? But just like he has worked so hard to be there for our kids.
Yes.
And then 3 services has kind of opened that up to where it's really easy for him to go to a service.
Yeah.
And that's the best.
But since Mark doesn't watch this, but some of you do watch this, something that maybe you could do for Mark is be like, hey, I could lead a whole service once a month, and it would be would be fine. Like you could not be up here at all for that whole service. Mm-hmm. And so just throwing that out there as a volunteer opportunity.
Yeah. And make sure he feels welcome in service too.
Yeah.
Sit with the guy you don't know.
Yeah.
So let's move on to Esther, because we kicked off a new series, obviously, as we transitioned into 3 services. Surprise, we were going to do something new with that transition. And so it's a through a book of the Bible series. We're going through Esther, and really just acknowledging the hidden influence of God. And I had this really interesting conversation yesterday after third service, and it was a lady who came who was new. It was her first time at Capital West, and she's like, "Can I talk to you for a little bit?" And she wanted to go off in the side room and talk about some things, and so like. we're obviously in a political season, and I'm addressing that with this series.
Yeah.
Like
I love that a lot.
Yeah, I'm
Yesterday.
just all cards on the table. Like I'm just addressing the fact that we're in this political season right now, but acknowledging and addressing that fact that what we're really like, everything we think that we're voting for, we're really relying on God's hidden influence for Him to do what He needs to do in this season to accomplish His greater will. And so yeah, go vote and have beliefs and opinions and make sure that they are in line with Scripture and follow your conscience in those things, but know that our Savior is still Jesus Christ. And that's the whole thing of this series. And so the person visiting with me, she was like, yeah, I left X church because they were so political. And so I almost just got up and left when the message started.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
and-
not a good thing, but like that would have been terrible. But like,
yeah. And then she's like, because I thought you were going to try to tell me who I should vote for or how I should vote or whatever. And then I didn't. Like, I just, I say this to these guys all the time, but my ethos is punch both sides in the mouth and get out of the ring.
that was your first opener, right?
Yeah.
Like that was the opening statement.
Yeah.
Even though you were kind of in political zone a little bit before that, but
yeah. And so like that's what I do. And so she stuck around, and she's like, I just appreciated that you were able to talk about this cultural phenomenon without forcing us into, you have to do this and this and this, or vote for this and this. And then she was like, and you're not going to do that, right?
she had to double check.
No, she did. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that.
So that's kind of where Jesus finds himself a lot of times too, like
yeah.
in between nations and in between kingdoms, and so even like Pharisees, Sadducees, like that moment, he's not really affiliated with one or the other, though it almost seems like
both of them came
could,
together to be
yeah
against him.
yeah, he united enemies a little bit. But yeah, and then even Rome, like that whole situation, and like so I think that's the right place for us to be in a lot of ways, and
I don't want people to mishear me on that. I think we should have convictions. Like, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have convictions, and I think that we all should have reasons why we vote the way that we do. I have had the blessing, I think, to live in very politically diverse regions of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And so I am very, very well aware that people vote all sides based on a theological belief, and they're picking the lesser of what they believe is the lesser of the two evils a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And it's not that they agree with everything on either side, and so whenever we try to like pigeonhole Jesus into a side, that's when that gets messy for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think like our primary job ends up being that we want to speak truth, and less, even though our opinions are going to have to leak through, because it's really hard to separate those. But but trying to speak truth rather than things that are up for someone else to decide, I guess. And so as long as we're pointing towards Jesus and truth, those other things will work it out.
Yeah. Well, and so what I told her was, like, I will, if things come up in Scripture that are only political because they are on ballots. You know what I mean? But if they are truth, I will speak truth.
Yeah.
But I will speak truth regardless of what any person or party tells me I should think or agree with.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I will speak biblical truth, not, whatever. And so, and I think we have to land there, and it's maturity to be able to say, I don't agree with this, but I do agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
And
if we ever get bought out by a politician, then we're way in the wrong. Like, like we should stop at that point.
Yeah.
Like stop speaking,
Yeah.
like, so we won't do that. And I think that's a big deal.
Yeah. So anyways, so that was, and so we're in this Esther series, and we're talking about God's hidden influence. And so yesterday we're comparing like the kingdom of Xerxes, which is it's in campaign season. You wanted to talk about this like some people, or was it Zach wanted to talk about like some people thinking it's fiction.
Yeah. I read a little bit about that yesterday, and it was really interesting.
Yeah. And so I understand why people get there. I don't believe it's there. Like, I think historically I can prove to you that this is a factual event, even though I don't necessarily have every specific detail of that event. I can say, yeah, this shows this and this shows this. I see enough of it to see that, like, people haven't changed that much in the last few thousand years. I mean, like, we've got air conditioning now, and that's really nice. But the heart of man has not changed significantly. And so I've got enough pieces of history to say, no, this is something that actually happened. But there are people who believe that it's fiction, or more likely believe that something like that happened, but there was enough of a length of a time between it happening and the recording of it that it became like Johnny Appleseed.
Yeah, so what I read was that it was allegory, and I think it was a specific type of allegory, but they started identifying types, which is just another word for, like, recurring themes in a person or a nation or a thing. Yeah. And so they said that Xerxes was like God. Yeah. And some of the courts were like heaven. Yeah. And Vashti, or however you say that name, was her getting, like, what do you call it? Like, removed was like the fall of man. And so I was like, oh man, that's like a strange, like, way to, like, lay that out. So take that in. Yeah. But anyways, I don't know.
You have to read, but you have to read so much into the text and ignoring the history. Yeah. To land there.
And it's got some dates and some.
Yeah. That for me, it's like rational suicide to get there. I just can't make it there.
Yeah. I thought it was just interesting looking at it, and they were making this, like, allegorical analysis of it, and then adding the types to it, and I was like, oh, I've never thought about it that way. So
that is crazy.
Yeah. And so we we definitely talked about the events that were happening, for 46 to 43 BC. Yeah. And like things that we know in the canon of history that were really real, that we can tie to Xerxes, like we know that Xerxes did. And so we were making that connection. And so while the role of history, extra biblical is like outside of the Bible. Yeah. While the role of extra biblical history doesn't necessarily mention Esther, as a queen. We have enough of the other history that's real that I go, this is probably probably real.
And for me, that's in that zone of like we're not gonna maybe die on a hill over it, whether one way or the other.
It's in the zone of like, just like creation. Yeah. As long as you believe that God did it, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Like, that's the important check mark.
Yeah.
Checkbox.
Yeah. Like, so this is why I said yesterday, like, even why I put it in the sermon yesterday, is just to acknowledge, like, some people believe that this is fiction, but even if it is fiction, they believe that it reveals truth about God. And I think that is the greatest significant belief.
Yeah, and I think there's beauty in that, in that diversity.
Yeah. And so, but as we were talking about it yesterday and comparing these two kingdoms, really a big part of the conversation yesterday was like our anger and our arrogance and our prejudice, and what does that cause in the bigger picture, as we looked at this decree of Xerxes, right, against his wife, Queen Vashti, his main wife. I mean, he had a harem, but against his main wife Vashti, and how he made this decree because he was mad at her, but what this decree really did was harm all women for the rest of Persia. And like,
he knew it going into it,
and he knew that going into it. Like, he was aware of what he was doing, but he was so angry that he was too stupid to acknowledge he was making a mistake. Which, how many times have we done that? Right? I mean, I do that. And so just talking about that, and how we have this, like, generational power within the decisions that we make, even still today. And everything, but at the same time, we have a Savior who has the ability to speak a new decree over our life, and that new decree, like, while the scars of everything, all the other things still remain, like that new decree, it really begins an opportunity for us to heal from those things, and so that was the conversation yesterday.
I really loved through all of that the seemingly obvious and black and white contrast between Jesus and Xerxes.
Yeah, for real.
Right? Like Jesus, and we were talking about that in small group, and it was like one of the first questions is like, this is a very clear distinction, right? They're completely opposites. But the thing is in our lives, and what I like about this series is that in our lives, it's not always that black and white.
Right.
Sometimes it feels so gray because we get so caught up in, like you said, in the anger, in the power dynamics, and just trying to achieve a goal in your life. You're trying to change, seemingly good motivations. You're trying to change your world for what you believe is better.
Right.
But then, oftentimes we get caught up in that polarizing, in the division, in the anger.
Right.
And then we lose sight of who Jesus is through all of that.
Yeah.
And man,
I loved that question last night at Life Group. We were talking about it, and I was like thinking about like, man, how is Jesus different from Xerxes?
Yeah.
And one of the things that is crazy is that Xerxes doesn't really have like God power, but he was considered, God level. And so he's constantly grasping and gripping at trying to hold on to this power.
Right.
And then you see Jesus, who has all the power, and he's just letting go.
Right.
He's just letting it all go.
Yeah.
And it's just this interesting.
I mean, think about the contrast and how they're introduced, right? You have Xerxes introduced as a man who's putting his power on display, and then go read the Gospel of Mark, and you see Jesus introduced with the messianic secret.
Yeah.
Like, you're healed, but don't tell anybody it was me.
Oh man, that's good.
Like there's just such great contrast between these two people. And one of them changed the world, and the other one is infamously known.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're still very, very similar, but like in really different ways.
Yeah.
Really different ways.
Man.
Yeah. And so that's the thing. So Kirkland Morgan asked if we had any resources I would suggest alongside the study of the Book of Esther. That's an interesting question. So I don't know of any. I'll be honest, I haven't looked at a lot of like Bible studies for Esther as I've been doing my research for this message. I would recommend, and this is a commentary I use a lot in my own writing. Like, I use this whole series a lot in my own writing. So I don't necessarily agree with everything in it, but I think it's really practical, helpful, like easy to understand and easy to contextualize. It's called the Believer's Bible Church Commentary, and they have a volume on Esther. And I like it because, like, you guys know that commentaries can run the gamut between like word for word original language and here's how you look it up in the lexicon. Or like a story about the book. And this is more like, here's some of the key words you probably need to know. Here's the key themes, but here's how to contextualize it today, and like how to. It does a really good job. So it's a really good set that I really like, and so it's a good one, and really easy to read, practical. So
that's a good question, because that might be difficult for someone to know where to start on any of that stuff.
Yeah, it is. It is really hard to know, and it's really hard to it's really hard to find, like, you always are rolling the dice when you're picking up a resource.
For sure.
And so like, we're kind of spoiled by just some insider knowledge of like words to look for of, this was probably produced by this denomination, or it was produced by, you know what I mean? That maybe if you go to church, you aren't spoiled that way.
Yeah. I mean, like, the other thing is, like, the Bible itself. I don't mean that in a like a mean way or anything, but you can look at, like, you always look at the text on the page, but then like the stuff at the bottom.
I always
like
look at the cross
references.
Oh, dude, the
that
cross
stuff really
references
tunes you into a lot.
Yeah,
So
I'm a cross reference junkie. Like, that's my thing.
Some things you can even filter. Like, I always use Bible Gateway. I'm not really sure why.
I use openbible.info.
Okay. So those sometimes you can just
that.
click like, man, I want to see parallel passages, and then you can see
how
other
they
things that we're
compare.
talking about, similar.
I love, so openbible.info has a question that you can type a response into, and it's, what does the Bible say about? And then you can write a full thought. You can write a one-word topic. You can write whatever. And then it'll just, every verse in the Bible that has, like, that deals in some way, whether thematically or directly with that thing, it'll pop up.
Cool.
And so it's a really, really cool, like, if you just want the Bible and you don't want, like, because sometimes on Bible Gateway you'll get like commentaries and things like that too, and sometimes because they're using open source commentaries, like the copyright's dead on.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes the content in those can be questionable.
Yeah.
Oh, the other thing we talked about, which you mentioned, like, man, if you just go listen to it audiobook style. Yeah. And I think that's a good advice for anybody, but your specific thing is Streetlights.
I'm a Streetlights guy, and
so go download the Streetlights app.
Esther and Streetlights is top notch.
I think I'm gonna have to go listen.
Yeah, it is top notch. Also I love anytime I read a new book of the Bible, I'll hop on and do the Bible Project video.
Oh yeah.
Just as a quick refresh.
Yes.
And so I love that too. And so go check that out.
And they usually have, for all those books, deeper dives into them in the podcast. If you go back way far and find the comment or the podcast episode series, those are always good resources. And I also recommend, along with Streetlights, is to go into the Bible app and put it on 2x speed and do a breeze through really quickly, and then go, because yours is more like a dramatic, slow, like let's think about this, let's visualize this. But we've also talked before, just as staff, like the value of doing a very quick breeze through.
Oh yeah,
that's also a really cool thing, because then what that'll do is that'll help you to see themes when you go back and read it slower, because you know things that will come up later. So
and then the Net Bible, Net Bible has a free. They have a free, like, basically research Bible tool that you can use, and it's really good. It's really, really good. And so it's worth checking out. And then the last thing I want to mention, just a shout out to, and I'm not usually the guy to shout out to this, so take this as like, this is high praise from Dallas. Okay, are you ready for this?
Oh man.
Actually, if you can get it, I don't even know if it's available to buy yet or not, but the Sight and Sound, their Esther play is the best thing they've ever done.
Oh wow!
It is.
Was that last year?
It was. Oh
man,
so well done.
I think I had the chance to go.
Just ended. I think it just ended. But it was so well done, and so definitely check that out. Your kids would love it too. So
cool.
Yep.
Oh, man, I think that's it. That's a good place to stop, guys.
That's
really good. Yeah. Hey, well, thank you guys so much for joining us today, and we will see you next week on the Monday Morning Worship Hangover.
See ya. Bye.